What if I told you that one single man is responsible for more human death and environmental damage than almost any dictator or general in history? And you've probably never heard his name. Not Hitler. Not Stalin. Not Mao. A quiet engineer working in an American laboratory. Look at the modern world. Cities covered in smog. People with elevated lead levels in their blood. An ozone layer that nearly collapsed. Most people blame industrialization in general. But when you trace the timeline carefully, you arrive at one moment and one decision. The invention that poisoned the entire planet. The name behind it was Thomas Midgley Jr. And for decades, he was celebrated as a genius, the inventor who solved two of the biggest technological problems of the 20th century. Except those solutions turned out to be catastrophes. This is the story of what I call the Midgley mistake, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. This is Infinite Turning Points, where we explore the moments that quietly or suddenly changed the course of history. In 1921, the world faced a technological problem. Automobile engines kept failing. Early gasoline engines suffered from something called knocking, a violent combustion problem that damaged engines and limited power. Car companies were desperate for a solution. Inside a laboratory funded by General Motors, Thomas Midgley began experimenting with chemical additives. Eventually, he found something that worked almost perfectly: tetraethyl lead. Just a small amount added to gasoline eliminated engine knocking almost instantly. To industrial leaders, it looked like a miracle. But here's what most people don't realize. Lead had been recognized as a deadly poison for thousands of years. Even ancient civilizations warned about it. Midgley knew that too. Lead solved the engineering problem, but it created a far bigger one. When burned in engines, lead particles were released into the air. Those particles settled into soil, water, and human lungs. Midgley himself was poisoned while working with it. He took months off to recover from lead exposure. But instead of stopping the project, industry accelerated production. Gasoline containing tetraethyl lead was marketed under the brand name ethyl. Factories began producing it around the world. Millions of cars soon sprayed microscopic lead particles into the atmosphere every day. Leaded gasoline didn't just pollute cities. It changed human biology. Lead is a powerful neurotoxin. It damages the brain, especially in children. Lower IQ, behavioral disorders, long-term cognitive harm. By the 1970s, atmospheric lead levels were hundreds of times higher than natural levels. The entire planet had become the experiment. But Midgley's influence didn't stop with gasoline. In the 1930s, engineers faced another problem. Refrigeration systems used toxic gases like ammonia and sulfur dioxide. A safer alternative was needed. Once again, Midgley found a chemical solution: chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs. These new chemicals were stable, non-toxic, and incredibly useful. They powered refrigerators, air conditioners, and aerosol sprays. Industry celebrated again. Two revolutionary inventions, both from the same man. Except, there was one problem. CFCs slowly drift upward into the atmosphere. And when ultraviolet sunlight breaks them apart, they destroy ozone. The ozone layer protects Earth from harmful solar radiation. Without it, life on the surface becomes far more vulnerable. Midgley didn't know that at the time, but the consequences were already unfolding. Eventually, one scientist began asking uncomfortable questions. His name was Clair Patterson. Patterson was trying to measure the age of the Earth using isotope dating, but his samples kept showing something strange: lead contamination everywhere, ocean water, air samples, even ancient ice in Antarctica. At first he assumed his laboratory equipment was contaminated. Then he realized something far worse. The contamination wasn't in his lab. It was everywhere. Lead from gasoline had spread across the entire planet. Patterson spent decades proving it, but powerful industries fought him. They funded studies to undermine his research. They attempted to discredit him. Because if Patterson was right, it meant modern industry had poisoned the atmosphere of Earth. Eventually, the evidence became overwhelming. By the 1970s, governments began banning leaded gasoline. Blood lead levels around the world dropped dramatically. Air quality improved. It became one of the greatest public health victories in modern history. Meanwhile, scientists confirmed that CFCs were destroying the ozone layer. In 1987, nations signed the Montreal Protocol, banning those chemicals worldwide. The ozone layer slowly began to recover. But the contamination Midgley helped create still exists in soils and urban environments today. Remember the man from the beginning, Thomas Midgley Jr. He didn't intend to harm the planet. But his inventions triggered consequences that spread across generations. And this is the real lesson. History isn't just shaped by wars or empires. Sometimes it changes because of a single invention, a single decision, a single turning point. The story of Midgley reminds us that the most dangerous moments in history often look like progress at the time. Because history is rarely shaped by accidents. It's shaped by decisions. And sometimes, one decision can ripple across the entire planet. If you want to understand how the world we live in was shaped, one decision at a time, subscribe to Infinite Turning Points.